I used to clean for the night crew at the county hospital, 7 nights a week, graveyard shift, 10 p.m. until 6 a.m., floors, trash, mopping, the quiet hum of machines. The first few months I liked it. No managers breathing down my neck, headphones in, the world asleep while I clocked miles on my shoes. The fluorescent lights gave everything a hard, honest glow. It felt useful, like my work mattered in a small, steady way. Then the nights started changing. Hospitals are weird at night. Daylight makes sense of the chaos, the bustling nurses, the visiting hours, but after midnight the place folds in on itself. Elevators sigh like lungs. Monitors beep in lonely rhythms. You can stand in a hallway and hear the building flex, pipes settling, a distant cart squeaking, and it feels like the whole place has a pulse. When you're the only person moving through it, every little sound becomes a story. My route ran from the emergency wing to the surgical floor and down into the old annex, the part they never renovated, because the county said there wasn't money, and I think maybe because people were uncomfortable putting new paint over old rooms. The annex was a maze of narrow corridors, low ceilings, and storage closets that smelled permanently faint of disinfectant and something older underneath it all. There were rooms they said were closed for good. The signs were taped over, the doorknobs painted shut. I was told to take a wide berth past that hall, which I did, until one night I didn't. That night I had a list that wouldn't quit. Spill in 3B, Rizstock gowns, check on a broken light in the stairwell. I was halfway through the annex when a tray clattered down the hall behind me, stainless, metal on tile, and loud. I paused, heart racing, and the noise echoed twice because there was no one to absorb it. I called out, "Housekeeping," the stupid little courtesy we say when we don't want to look like we're alone. No answer. The stairwell light at the end of the corridor flickered. When it went out completely, the dark pooled like oil. My flashlight found the scuffed steps, the no entry sign dangling by one screw. I should have turned around. Instead, I set my cart down and went to check the broken fixture. Someone had to log it for maintenance. The stair door was cold when I pushed it, and the smell hit me first. Bleach, old coffee, and something sweet and wrong beneath it. The basement level wasn't much. Supply rooms, an old employee locker area, a janitor's sink that always seemed to have a film of something floating on top. I walked past a row of lockers with my light sweeping each one. One locker had its door open a crack, just a sliver, though I knew the area was supposed to be locked after hours. I remember thinking maybe some nurse had grabbed a coat and forgotten to shut it. I shrugged and kept moving. The squeak of my cart wheels sounded huge in there. I had to go into supply room B for a mop head. The door protested on rusty hinges. The room smelled of cardboard and antiseptic. Stacks of boxes reached toward the ceiling, labels facing out with neat little typefaces that felt like catalog silence. I found the mop head, bent to grab it, and froze. There, on the concrete floor, was a tiny line of wet prints running away between the pallets, bare, not from a shoe, little toe impressions, as if someone had walked on their toes through a puddle. They were too small to be an adult's, and they weren't my prints. The hair on my arm stood up. I told myself it was a child's visitor earlier in the evening, or a nurse with wet feet, or some ridiculous, explainable thing. I carried the mop head out with my hands trembling. That night, the radio at the nurse station had been acting up, static, sometimes a whisper of voices. I pushed the cart past the desk and the monitor screens flashed green and black like eyes. I heard faint numbers on the radio, 3, 2, 5, but then static shoved the syllables away. I found myself listening for the cadence of it like it was a heartbeat I could hold my breath against. Later, when I rounded the surgical wing, I noticed the storage closet door at the end of the hall was open. I knew I had closed that door an hour earlier. Some nights you lock doors out of habit like they protect you from the rest of the world. This time, the door was not only open, it was swung wide enough to let the dry, cold air seep into the hallway. I shined my light in. Rows of gurneys, sheets wrapped and stacked, a folding hospital sign leaning like a blank face against the wall. Nothing. I told myself to stop doing the nervous things, the shallow breathing, the checking of every shadow, and pushed the door closed. When I turned, something small hit the tile at my feet and skittered under the vending machine. A folded paper with jagged edges, as if it had been torn from a notebook. I picked it up. Black ink made a list, random words, names maybe, but scrawled below was a phrase I couldn't unsee. Come out. The letters had the peculiar nervousness of handwriting done quickly. Too many starts and jerks. I dropped it like it burned my palm and felt foolish for being startled by a scrap of paper. The next morning, during the day shift, I found a cart well left in the middle of the hallway, smeared with wet black and a sticky tack that smelled metallic. No one knew where it came from. No cameras seemed to show anything outside of grainy night footage, fuzzy shadows passing one another like out-of-sync ghosts. The security tech shrugged and said the feeds cut at 3:12 a.m. for reasons his supervisor hadn't explained. After that, I started noticing more things. A door ajar that I was sure I left closed. A radio moved from its shelf to the floor with the dial turned to a frequency I didn't recognize. A row of sanitizer bottles knocked down, but not spilled. One night, I found the mop head I'd put in the cabinet back on the floor, neatly balled up though I'd left it flat. I began leaving notes for myself in the supply room. Locked, checked, do not enter. The ink never stayed for long. I stopped sleeping during the day. Every noise, pipes, the creak of a dolly, a chipper laugh on an old recording, felt like a countdown. I caught my reflection in a stainless cart, and for a second thought I saw someone else behind me in the gleam. A small shadow at my shoulder, a child's outline with its head cocked, like it was listening. When I spun around, there was nothing but a humming vending machine and my own blinking light. Then the laughing started. Not in the hallways, inside the vents. A raw, throatless chuckle that could have been a radio glitch or an old tape loop, but it sounded close enough to make my skin want to crawl off. It would go on for minutes and stop the instant I called, "Who's there?" Silence answered me back every time, thick and eager. The last night I worked there, I found muddy footprints lining the corridor to the staff lockers. They were small, running from one end to the other, then stopping halfway to circle back like someone had been fussing with a lock. The security log showed no one entering the building that night. I started following the prints without thinking, my flashlight cutting a white tunnel through the dark. They led to the old annex stairwell, the locked one with the no entry sign, and ended at the bottom step. I stood there for a long time, listening to the building breathe. Then something cold and patient slid across the concrete at ankle level. A little wet handprint ghosted along the sole of my shoe and vanished. My throat closed up, and for the first time I felt the full weight of being seen by whatever moved in the spaces between work and sleep. I left my cart where it was, shoved the stair door open, and ran upstairs as hard as my legs would carry me. I hit the fluorescent lights and the normal hum of the day staff like a slap of clean air. They laughed when I told them about the prints. "Old building man," someone said. "Settles weird." But the paper on my cart that morning, that same scrap, the one that said "come out," was gone. I quit 2 weeks later. I told the supervisor it was for family reasons and took the money in my pocket. People asked if I was afraid. I said I was tired. Both answers were true, but neither was the whole thing. Sometimes now, late, when I'm awake and the house settles, I think about the little footprints and the folded note and the way the vents hummed with a voice that sounded like someone I used to know. I can still taste that metallic tin on my tongue, the smell that clung to the mop rooms and the underside of the building. I don't go near hospitals at night anymore. I don't like the way they remember. If you ever work nights in an old building, don't be the one who opens doors because someone tells you to. Don't be the one who follows small prints into stairwells. Listen to the sounds that don't make sense and leave the rest alone. Some floors keep what falls between their boards. Some walls hold on. And when they call, they don't always want to bring you home.